What's up everyone? Welcome to my show, Adam the Flop Bops. I am your host, Adam. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you can hear the biggest tea in pop music. If you're not new, welcome back. I think you all will really enjoy today's episode because I am talking about one of the biggest pop music eras of all time that you all know and love, Teenage Dream by Katy Perry. Let me take you back to 2010, which was the year that Teenage Dream came out. This was a very interesting time in pop music because this was the period where you would hear a song on the radio and that's how it would become a hit, and that's what would make you want to buy it on iTunes. Now think about that. Now I'm sure all of you stream your music on platforms like Spotify and Apple Music, or find your music through TikTok, but there was a point in time where we would all just listen to the radio, hear the most radio-friendly pop songs, and decide to spend 99 cents to buy them on iTunes. Now, I don't know about you, but I really miss this era of pop music because I really think that albums just performed better back then, because if an artist had a song on an album that wasn't a single, but it sounded like it could be a single, you know, the fans really liked it, they would just send that song to radio and that's how it would become a hit. But now it's a lot different, especially with TikTok controlling the industry and people not listening to the radio as much. In the past couple of years, we've seen a rise in the streaming era, and I think this has really harmed the idea of a full pop music era. Artists and labels no longer dictate how their era performs and which songs they want to make as singles. Now that's all driven by an audience who decides what songs they want to go viral on TikTok. I would say that 2017 really marked the end of the radio era and the beginning of the streaming era. I do think that the biggest era in radio was Teenage Dream by Katy Perry. Teenage Dream by Katy Perry not only had 6 top 10 hits, but those top 10 hits were #1 hits, and it even had the Diamond certified single, Firework. I think part of the reason this worked so well with Katy Perry is because Teenage Dream was full of songs that sounded like they could be singles on the radio. I really do not think that any artist could do what Katy Perry did back in 2010 today. We live in an era where TikTok sort of dictates how an album era is going to perform and what singles an artist is going to put out. Whereas back then we didn't have to worry about that. It was just an artist, their team, and their fans basically choosing what songs that they wanted as singles. Now, even though I do not think that any artist could replicate the Teenage Dream era, I do think that there are 2 artists who have created what could be considered the modern day teenage dreams. And those artists are Dua Lipa and Doja Cat. I'm gonna start off by talking about Dua Lipa because I think her future nostalgia era was very interesting. Dua Lipa was set up for failure with the release of this album. Dua started this era off really strong by releasing Don't Start Now as her lead single in November of 2019. This song was a global smash hit and hit #2 in the US, and it really dominated the global charts. After this, her upcoming album Future Nostalgia became so highly anticipated, everybody was looking forward to it, and the era kept going strong after she released Physical as a promo single in early 2020. But then what happened 2 months after that? The global pandemic. And I really thought that this would ruin the whole Future Nostalgia era. Not only because the world was shutting down and Dua couldn't really do any in-person promotion or performances for the album, but also because the full album leaked a week before Dua released it. Now I remember this album was supposed to come out in early April of 2020, but then after somebody leaked the entire thing on Twitter, Dua had to release it a week early. This was such a big mess. She was crying on Instagram Live. I felt so bad for her, and I was worried about Dua Lipa's career. But she did not let this get the best of her. She kept on releasing singles throughout the era, kept on releasing music videos and doing virtual performances throughout the pandemic that made the era huge. Along with the release of the album, she released the single Break My Heart, which was a pretty big hit, but the single that really stood out during this era was Levitating. Now in the US, Levitating was a huge sleeper hit. It debuted within the top 80 on the Billboard Hot 100. So personally, I did not think it was going to be a big hit when she released it just because of its low debut. But if there's anything that Dua Lipa has proven over the past couple of years, it's that she is the queen of sleeper hits. Levitating was the biggest hit of 2021, hitting #2 in the US, and it was also a global smash hit. Now I know what you all are thinking. You are probably like, well, if it peaked at #2, how is it the biggest hit of 2021? Well, Levitating spent 77 weeks on the Hot 100 chart, becoming the longest charting song by a female artist in history. Now to me that is crazy to think about because 77 weeks is a really long time for a song to be charting and for people to be streaming it. Usually we get tired of songs really quickly. I would say the average hit on the Hot 100 charts for about 20 weeks, so the fact that this song charted for 77 weeks proves how massive it was. The Future Nostalgia era lasted a whole 2 years. It ended back in March of 2022 when Levitating officially departed the Hot 100 chart. And as a fan of pop music, this just made me so happy. The fact that this album consisted of pop bangers that were just radio friendly, and the fact that every song on the album could have been a single really reminds me of Teenage Dream, and is the reason why I consider it to be one of the streaming era teenage dreams. Now onto the next album that I think had a similar performance to Teenage Dream. Even though Planet Her by Doja Cat is a rap album, it definitely still had pop elements, and this is proved by the fact that it had multiple hits at pop radio. Doja Cat started this era in 2021 by releasing the lead single Kiss Me More. This song was the perfect lead single for the album. I just loved the pop rap blend on it. Plus it featured one of the queens of R&B music, SZA. It was overall just really pleasing to the ear to hear Doja Cat singing and rapping and SZA singing over this pop instrumental. Plus the song became a big hit, peaking at number 3 in the US. She followed this up by releasing You Right with The Weeknd as the second single from the album. It peaked at number 11, so it wasn't as big of a hit as Kiss Me More was, but it still has over 500 million streams on Spotify. Now these singles were a great start to the era, but what I really think made it massive was the song Need to Know. Doja Cat initially released Need to Know as a promotional single for the album, so she wasn't even going to make it an official single, which by the way, when I heard that song, I was like, what is she doing? Like, why is this song just a promotional single? I was like, this needs to be the second single. Scrap You Right, you can leave that off the album. Give us Need to Know as a single. Need to Know is unlike any song I've ever heard before, just the message of it and the sound of it. It's just a pop rap banger. Thank God for TikTok, because this song ended up going viral on the platform, which led Doja's team to making it an official single, and it eventually peaked at number 8. A similar situation happened with the song Woman. It wasn't a big hit when Doja Cat first released the album, but it ended up reaching its peak of number 7 in May of 2022, nearly a year after it first debuted on the Hot 100 chart. She then released Get Into It Ya as a single, and it reached the top 20. I think Katy Perry was the queen of a radio-driven pop era with Teenage Dream, but Doja Cat is really the queen of a TikTok-driven music era. Pretty much all of these singles that I just mentioned went extremely viral on TikTok, and that's how they charted so well. There's honestly no other artist who could compete with Doja Cat when it comes to TikTok. I think that people not only want to stream her music when it comes out, but they have this urge to make videos using the song as an audio on TikTok, which helps share the song with millions and millions of people. Personally, I love pop girls and I love rap girls, so I really just admire the fact that Doja Cat proved that she can do both with this pop music era. To reiterate what I said earlier, I really do not think an artist could have an era with 6 #1 hits today like Katy Perry did back in 2010 with Teenage Dream. This album was the pop Bible, and there will be no replicas of it. However, Dua Lipa and Doja Cat are two artists who really knew how to have a big pop music album in the streaming era of music. The way people listen to music is so different now. Artists and labels are no longer in control of what charts well. We as audience members are, and I think that's a great thing. In conclusion, stan Katy Perry, stan Dua Lipa, and stan Doja Cat because they have worked overtime to give us these big pop music eras. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Ad on the Flop Bops. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much, but if you're not a subscriber or a follower of my other socials, make sure to do that so you can hear more music tea.